John, dude, thanks for coming on.
No worries. It's a pleasure.
No, man, I appreciate it. Obviously, uh, big name in North Carolina running. You know, all the accolades that you have so far, and just even at a young age too, man. Like looking back at some of your younger times and younger days, have really grown to develop a lot throughout the years, and still obviously tons of room to grow. Um, some things I kind of like to do, like starting off with these podcasts, is just like kind of get to know you a little bit more because I think everybody just kind of knows you as a runner, probably. So,
Yeah.
like, what are some things like outside of running you kind of like to do?
I play a lot of golf. I would say outside of running, it's kind of a way that like because I only run like an hour or so a day, give or take. So, I have some other time left. And I usually spend that golfing or with friends, but nothing crazy.
I mean, golf is pretty out there. I think
Yeah.
I've heard a couple things what student athletes do outside of it, but you're the first person to say golf, which is really respectable. I've actually wanted to get into golf like quite a bit, but the most I do is like the driving range or like
Yeah.
Top Golf or something. So that's
Yeah.
kind of the biggest thing for me. How'd you get started running in the first place?
Well, I played soccer for around like 13 years before I ran. And I had a hamstring injury. I tore my hamstring the summer before my freshman year of cross country. And so I kind of like I didn't really like playing soccer at that moment. I was a little bit, down on the sport. I kind of fell out of love for it after playing it for so long. And so I have friends that were on the cross country team at my school, and I was like, let's give it a try, None of my family runs, no one I've ever known runs. But I did when I was around 11 years old, I did like a local 5K, and I think I went like 1955. So I knew, like, I had it in the back of my head for years that I was like, maybe I could try it. And it was just a great opportunity, so I decided to take it, and then here I am.
Dude, that is insane. I've heard like, I've heard soccer players switching to
Yeah.
cross country track. That's kind of a common occurrence. But to play 13 years, that is like huge. That's huge. You don't normally see that because you were so like in it, I guess. But
Yeah,
um
I played it at the highest level I could for 13 years, and then just I didn't like it anymore.
yeah, I mean, did you played club soccer, I'm
Yeah,
assuming?
I played club
Yeah.
soccer.
Yeah, and I guess you kind of see that too nowadays because club soccer. I mean, honestly, running is starting to turn into a year-round thing as well, just with indoor, outdoor. I mean, just look at the meets right now. Like New Balance was this past weekend, or Nike was this spot. Like we're in, July 1st here, so it's like it
Yeah.
really is turning into a year-round thing. Um, at least for some of these, I wouldn't even say South Carolina, North Carolina is northern. Still, they recognize indoor season versus like Florida, where I'm from. I'm from Florida originally, so we never talk about indoor season.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about like cross country last
Mhm.
season, so cross 24.
Yeah.
But I want to start off at like so obviously freshman year 16:14 PR, this year 15:08 PR. A really solid just growth right there. There's not like you didn't plateau at freshman year and you're stuck there for a while. Um, is that how you kind of feel it has been? Like it has been kind of a steady growth?
Yeah, I think it's been very steady. There have been, sophomore year of cross country, I was injured for the first half of the season. So it's definitely there's been some roadblocks, but I would say, every single time towards the end of the season, pick up some miles, get it done, I guess. I usually, cross country's state, or in our state meet, I've performed very well there every single one of my years that I've run it. So I would say that's been like, it's been steady. Um, and it's always a great feeling. I PR'd by like 35 seconds my freshman year at the state meet. I PR'd by 20 seconds my sophomore year, and then I PR'd by like 8 seconds, 5 seconds this year. But it's very steady. It's good.
It has been. Curious. I'm always curious. I love this question here. So when you're running like a PR like that, 1508, or even in general, do you hear the crowd at all, or are you like so laser focused? Like, do you hear your coaches or family members like yelling at you or like splits?
I would say you hear like the splits at the mile marks, and you kind of towards the end, I never hear the crowd towards the end. I think I just get so focused and, I'm so focused on how much it hurts that I think I almost, lose track of everything around me. But I mean, towards like the beginning, the first mile, it's great to have your team out there supporting you and, it pulls you along for the first little bit. And then at the end, it's kind of, I would say I'm just zoned in.
Yeah. A curious question. We have a poll question that's going out tomorrow. Just picking your brain on it though. When you're like in that final stretch, um, you said like you're so laser focused on it. So do you hear anybody say like, "Hey, like this dude's closing in on you" or anything, or you just don't pay attention at all?
I don't know. I don't pay attention. I don't hear it. I just pick the knees up and go, you know.
Yeah.
I never hear it.
All right. So, I want to pick your brain on two races specifically. One is that Friday Night Lights finish. Yeah. What was that? Injured, hurt, went out too fast. Like,
Um,
walk me through that one.
so basically, I had been sick basically a week prior. Me and my teammate were actually both sick. But I just wasn't feeling super great. It was a lung issue, like breathing wise. And I got into the race, and the first mile I was up front. I think it was a solid first mile. And then as soon as the second mile hit, I couldn't really breathe. I couldn't pick, the speed up. It felt like I couldn't really run any faster. Um, yeah, and so it was one of those races where it's like it just wasn't going to happen that day. I couldn't really control, the what happened that day. But after the race, I got like it's like a pack. It helps you like breathe and like it opens your airways up. And a week later, I ran that same time on my home course, which is known for being like really, really difficult. So yeah, that race, it wasn't a great experience, I would say. Um, but it was definitely a turning point where I was like, because prior to it, I knew something wasn't right, and then I had that race, and I knew after I was like, something has to change. Like I got to fix something. Like it's not working.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it is curious, real quick. Because people kind of look at you as like I don't want to say like a godlike figure, but they do look at you as someone like who could never have a bad race. And I think it's like really kind of interesting that like to hear it from your perspective is like, dude, I'm just like everybody else. Like anybody could have a great race, anybody could have a bad day.
mhm.
Um, but do you feel any of that like pressure though on you? Because like people do kind of assume like, oh, you're gonna run 15s every single week or win every single week, you know?
I would say I definitely feel the pressure, in a way. People around you, they're like, "Oh, what's your PR?" They tell you this. Is that what you ran? Would you run this past weekend? But I would say, honestly, I mean, when you get in, it's like when you just zone in, and it's kind of like, you just got to run your own race. You get like if you get too caught up in, what people are saying around you, or like you feel like you have to run this time. Um, Honestly, I don't think you perform as well. So you definitely feel pressure, but I don't let it consume me.
Yeah, no, and that's good too. Another one I want to kind of go over was Great American. Obviously, great finish there, 15-13, 12th place overall. First, kind of just Wake Mid. Like, do you like the course? We had a poll earlier of like top kind of courses in North and South Carolina. Wake Mid was kind of up there. A lot of people like it. Is that course that you kind of gravitate towards? I mean, obviously you have your PR in there, and we'll talk about that later. But do you like Wake Mid?
I love Wake Med. It's my favorite
Yeah,
course.
the
Uh,
favorite course.
my favorite course. I feel like it's a nice loop because you don't really repeat as much. You repeat the hill and some of the inside, but I love the way it's like run because you don't like pass back through, I suppose, like Ivy Redmond, where you do that loop like 4 times, or McAlpine, where you go past like 3 times.
Yeah,
So I do like Wake Med.
yeah. McAlpine. a lot of people gravitate towards. I don't know. It just maybe it's just so fast. It's always fast.
It is.
Even Wake Med though. Honestly, I feel like Wake Med you could like. I think the potential is there, but I feel like if you don't run it right, you won't get a PR because I mean that hill, finishing up the hill, going up the hill, uh, what once, twice, well twice total. Like I mean, if you gas out at the beginning with the downhill, like you're gonna screw yourself over pretty hard. Um, but yeah, how was that race? You know, Great American 12th. Did you feel like you were kind of due for a really solid finish up there?
I did. I did feel like I was due for it. Going into the race, I had a really good workout. I remember that week. It was over the weekend before, or maybe it was early in the week, but it was a really good confidence builder, and I knew going into the race that like I could run something big or a very large PR. And obviously it's a great race to do it. There's so many fast people. So going into it, I would say I wasn't planning to actually be that high. I was planning to kind of, settle back a little bit and just close the race, which is kind of what happened. I went out in, I believe it was like 4:40 or something. I was in like 20s to 30s. I think like behind the front pack. Um, and then I kind of settled into that pace through 2 miles, and I think I was like 23rd through the 2 mile mark. And then going into the last mile, you kind of get that downhill. You go up, and then at the 2 mile mark, you hit a downhill. And I was running with my teammate, who he was deficient at that point, so he didn't have as good of a close to that race. But we kind of pulled each other along, and we got to the hill, and we were like, we got to go. And so I knew, my legs felt good, everything felt good. I was like, it's time to push it. And so yeah, that's basically what happened. And then you get to the top of the hill and you look at the clock and you're like, whoa, that's not what I was expecting. And that was great, yeah, obviously. Um,
Yeah, no, you know that you mentioned, you know, you did felt like you were kind of due. Was there a time like because I know you mentioned that workout specifically, but was there a time like in the summertime where you kind of started noticing anything that just like either the easy runs were getting easier at paces or like maybe there were like tempos that were just quicker or anything that like kind of comes to mind?
we did a workout. I think it was in September. It was kind of mid-September, or no, it was early September. So sort towards the beginning of the season. And it was a fartlek workout where we did like 5 minutes on and 2 minutes off and 5 minutes on, and we did like 5 sets of that. And it's kind of in the woods, hills, downhills, everything. It's kind of like a mock cross country track almost. And we were going like 5:05 pace like for those reps, and I was like, and they felt good, and I was like, this is, something I haven't felt before. It's never been this easy. And then that was kind of the moment where I was like, this could be that season. And yeah, I
Yeah,
that
no,
was the moment.
I always think that's really cool. When you notice it, I had a buddy who I asked him this question a long time ago. He was kind of helped me through preparing for a marathon, and he ran 14 like 59, 14:57 at Great American. He was the first guy since Alan Webb to break 15. And I asked him about that. And I was like, hey, like, was there a time when you just kind of noticed like something was clicking? And he's like, and he was a 1540s guy. He just had the race of his life. Um, and he's like, yeah, like in the summertime, there were just like workouts that he was doing that were faster than some of the other guys throughout the program, throughout the years. And I always found that like super curious of like you just kind of notice like something is there, something is coming up here. Um, I want to talk to you about cause your teammate or Lawson.
Yes.
Um, how is that? How is that? Because he's not far off from you. It seemed like his cross season wasn't quite there, but he had a great track season. Um, how is it training with somebody like that?
It's amazing. I think, I have him to credit for, much of my success and vice versa, because it's amazing to have someone right next to you to do all these workouts and kind of push you through, keep you accountable. And I mean, he does a lot of the workout planning, I would say. So he's key. It helps. I mean, I'm with him all the time. We run together almost every day when we can. Um, just it just kind of gets you through the run easier. You know, you recover. It feels like you recover better. I don't know. But having him there in races, especially in those long ones where at times you can feel like alone in a race. And you're on the second mile, it's getting a little, he's tired. But having him like right next to you, or having that guy next to you that you can kind of build off of each other, um, it's key. It really is.
Yeah, no, I get you too, man. I had two teammates kind of like that. Who like one was just a monster at speed, and I was more of a distance guy. So it's like it's nice to kind of complement each other too, in aspects like that. Um, for states, I want to get into states now. Obviously, state champion, that's awesome, dude. Like, just first off, like, how is that? Like, how is that feeling to like to cross the line and you're like, holy crap, like, dude, I just won this whole thing.
It's funny. I actually, when I crossed the line, there was a person that kind of came up to me to carry me off, and I was just standing there like this, and I was like, I just won. I just won. I was saying it out loud because I was so surprised. Um, because going into the race, kind of the week prior, George, he was actually iron deficient, Lawson. So he wasn't able to run with us. So there was kind of a, low morale, but we were trying to pick it up, the week of training with the team. It was like, we want to do this for him, you know, do the best we can. And I think that I was almost in this mindset of like, what can I do for the team? What can I do for the team? And in my head, I was like, I just need second place. I just need to get second place. Because obviously running against Cavi, I mean, he's fantastic. I mean, he had a great season. I mean, 1440 or whatever it was is it's crazy. And so going into the race, I had this like I was like I just need second place. Like, I'm gonna do this for the team, And then kind of the day of, my mindset almost like switched. I talked to my coach the morning of before the race, and he was like, "You've done a whole year of training. Why would you go out there to go try and get second?" Um, and yeah, and then I was so fired up for the race, and just kind of it happened, like
That happened, dude. That's so cool.
like it just happened.
Was there um was there a moment in the race where you thought you had it in the bag, or it was just like you were just trying to get to that line as quick as possible?
No, there was a moment. I would say for the first mile, it was kind of a slowish mile for Wake Med. We went out in like 4:53 or something. And we were kind of all together. And then as you go up the hill the first time, he tried to break away. And so I went with him, just because I was like, I didn't come here to get second. I switched my, mindset before the race. And so I
Now,
made.
is that like that split second decision right there? Is that something you even remotely like thought about? Like, if he goes, I go, or was it just in the moment?
No, it was before the race. It was if he goes, I go, and just see how long I can do it. Because obviously he's fantastic. It was like
Yeah.
I was planning on using, him to build off of, match his move to my best ability. And yeah, we got to the hill and he picked the pace up pretty, abruptly. And I just went with him. And then I would say the moment where he broke away from, you actually can't really see it because it was in the woods and no one was really there, but he broke away from me about, I think it was about 10 strides. He was ahead of me. And we got to the hill, we came out of the woods, and that, going back to the crowd there, I kind of heard everyone. My coach, he yelled at me like before you get up the hill, like Cavi was in front of me, I was behind him, and I could see him, and my coach yelled at me and was like, this is the opportunity to go. Are you going to? And so, looking back at Great American, obviously I closed that race super well. So I had that confidence on that hill, and I looked up at him and just, sprinted. And as soon as I passed him, I was like, this could happen. And I just held it all the way up the hill.
Did you now? I know you keep saying like you're just so laser focused. I don't know how if I could ever contain my excitement, but like, was you didn't hear at all anybody say like he's catching up or he's closing or like he's 10 meters back? Like nothing.
Nothing.
Oh my gosh.
My vision went blurry. Going when I was going up the hill, I remember it. My peripheral vision was gone. I could only see like 10 feet in front of me. I was hurting. So yeah, I really didn't hear any of the crowd. I was just, trying not to look back and just running.
Yeah, and something kind of because you mentioned like it went out slower than it usually does. But you PR'd. Do you think that like I don't know? Did you think that played a role because you did go out slower, or you had a better second half? Like, did you feel like you closed better on the hill that day than at Great American, or like what was it that you think kind of
I think it was
cured that PR? Yeah.
it was the second mile. We went out fairly, conservatively.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that second mile is kind of where you lose it a little bit, especially at Wake Med when you hit that hill.
Mhm.
And I would say having, Cabby picking up that pace and sticking to him, that second mile was a lot faster than it was at Great American. And that obviously set the stage for my third mile, which was quick.
Do you like kind of going out at that faster pace, or now that you did kind of try this new slow pace to go off, is that something you'd be open to doing or trying to, or
I would say yes, because I'm used to going out, super fast at Wake Med, isn't everyone?
yeah?
But I would say yes, you definitely feel it's a different feeling going into that third mile than it is when you go out fast. I mean, I ran pretty similar times both ways. I think it's more key on it's just your second mile, I think, especially there for
Yeah,
me.
I think that's really I mean, you have the opportunity to obviously uh race at Wakeman multiple times in a year versus some of these other guys that only hit there once. So you kind of I don't want to say you know the course more than anybody else, but you kind of do. Um, at least running it so often, you can kind of critique where to kind of kick and where to go. Um, although I would say still like with Great American, you're almost forced to go out hard because if you don't, you're just gonna get like super clobbered in the pack. I mean, you said you were 20, 30th. I mean, if you got any slower, you're gonna be like 60th, 70th place, and at that point, you may be too far behind to catch. Especially those guys going sub 15. When you look at the overall season, obviously a state title, I think, is kind of the icing on the cake, cherry on the top type being, and then obviously a great PR. What are your overall thoughts on the whole thing? Like, do you think it kind of went as planned, or were there any goals that were kind of left on the table?
I think there were definitely some goals that were left on the table in my postseason, which actually, didn't really happen. Um,
Yeah.
because it's a meet dash for doobie. Um,
Mhm.
it's the 3,200 meter at one. And I was in the fast heat, and about 200 meters in, um, someone I guess caught in between my legs and basically cut my ankle, like the muscle that is around like the ball on your ankle. It cut above it and it cut below it. And so I finished that race, but I wasn't really able to run for a couple days before NXR. So I didn't really know. I didn't really have confidence going into the race itself. And so at NXR, I went out in a blistering pace of 4:35.
Yeah.
Um, and I got to the hill, and the muscle in my ankle it wasn't giving anymore, and so I actually didn't finish the race. So I mean, it was a great season, and I wouldn't, I'm very proud of it, and but I would definitely say there are definitely some goals that were left on the table that I plan to, finish up this year.
Yeah, I think NXR obviously that's a big one. 35. Jeez, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's so quick, but like we just said, like you're just kind of forced to just because you just get left behind. Do you feel that way too? Kind of like because obviously you don't really have to necessarily do that for the state meet, but in these bigger meets, does it hurt? Does it suck to do that, or like would you know what I mean? Like it's it's kind of weird being forced to do it, but I mean, and obviously you can handle it, but I mean, do you feel like you can handle 4:35 going out, or was that just too
Um,
fast?
I honestly, I think, given a different situation with my ankle, I felt pretty brutal because, going out at that pace is, fast in any way. But I mean,
Yeah.
especially those big meets when there's so many people, it's always going to go out fast. Like, there's no way around it. The smaller, I mean, my state meet isn't massive. It's independent schools, so there's less people up front. So it can go out conservatively or fast. But in those big meets, they always go out fast. And I think you just kind of have to accept that and make it happen.
Yeah. Do you think I guess what is the limit? I mean, I hate to say like a limit, but like there almost does have to be a bit of like self kind of like holding back just a bit in a way. Do you think that like for this next coming season, like do you think going out at 35 would be okay, or is that maybe again just a little too much? Like you kind of your sweet spot would be going out like 4:40.
I would say the sweet spot would be going out in around 4:40. I think 4:35 and anything faster than that is really quick. Uh, so I think it was definitely it's a little fast, and I mean the race was quick for the top guys, but it wasn't as fast for the people that were not in the top 10 because everyone went out too fast. And I think it happens. Because you don't really notice it, especially in a big race like that, when you're so compact and there's someone on every side of you. You don't really notice it until you get to the second mile and you have to go up that hill. But I think 4:35 would be that's really fast.
Yeah.
That's really fast.
Yeah, and that you're right. You when you mentioned that, when you're in a pack, especially too, you kind of just get pulled with the pack, not even really thinking about it. That's something I've noticed throughout running as well. Let's kind of shift gears into track because I want to hit you a little bit on some of these times, but because I'm really curious. 4:15 for the 16, 9:12 for the 32, and then 1:59. Congratulations, sub two for the 8. Um, that's a huge. Are you more of a distance runner, or do you feel like you do have kind of that middle distance speed?
I would say this season I had mono during track season for the first from March to May. Um, so it was definitely lackluster on the actual like speed and quick turnover itself. I definitely think given more training, and more like fast speed work, I can definitely unlock more of a middle distance side of me. Um, but I would say this season I didn't really have that middle distance speed like I would have wanted. But I had to make do with a month and a half of a season.
Yeah, I think for most like cross runners, they always kind of look at themselves as more of the distance type. So whenever I can talk to somebody, a distance runner, quote unquote, being able to unlock some 800 speed is always nice. Um, do you feel stronger in a certain event, whether it be the 8, 16, or 32? Is there like a specific one that you kind of gravitate a little bit more towards?
I definitely gravitate more towards the 3200. Just because I do feel like I have more of I'm more distance oriented than middle distance. I would say the 32 is what I mostly gravitate towards, but it's definitely harder to do because you can't do it as much. Because as when you're trying to run fast times in it, you can't really do that unless you're at like the bigger meets, because you end up having to run them solo, which is never fun.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned the big meets too. I feel like recently, especially this season, I thought in North and South Carolina, it seemed like everybody is just gravitating towards like the big ones, like we had like All American here, and then like Carolina Distance Carnival was one, like Mount Tobar had the mile, like all these like meets are just kind of geared towards just fast times versus like it seems like a lot of teams don't really necessarily take some of the smaller meets into account nowadays, or at least they just don't get as much publicity for sure. And it's cool that you mentioned 32. A lot of people say the 16. I feel like nobody likes the 32. I was a 32 guy. 16 is just too fast for me. Same as the 8, just too fast. You mentioned that you got sick. for most of the season. You really came on strong at like the wrong part of the season. Obviously, like you want to do it at states, but you did it like after states, and you ran really really well. Is it like? Did you feel like you were kind of like coming along? Like were states just like if it would have been a week or two later, you would have been like you would have had it, or because that's what it seems like on paper.
I think possibly. I think I would have had a better showing. I was in the slow heats for both the mile and the 32 at States. So, I was just I had to do 32 solo. I think I scored like 1 point or something. And then in the mile, I was definitely feeling a little weak at the state meet. 'Cause I mean, mono is it knocked me out for a good little bit. But I
Yeah,
think, uh, my training, keeping it kind of low and kind of adjusting it to myself, and how I felt, day to day, day in and day out, especially with being sick, kind of helped. Some days you just had to sleep the whole day, and other days you were able to go out and get a run in. But I think if the state meet was about 2 weeks later, I think I would have had a very strong showing there.
yeah, and that's what it reads on paper too. It's again, and this is why I like doing these interviews because it's like if you just look at it, somebody would be like, "Who is this guy? Like, why did he drop off? Did he like die or something? Like, is he, And it's like, no, there's so much more to it, um and yeah, that's where it jumped off the paper to me. It's like it seems like you just needed that like week or two more, because you peaked at a good time, and honestly, I think there's when I look at the 5K time though too, and I look at like the track times, it does kind of scratch your head a little bit because I'm like, dude, you could easily be sub nine. You know, in my eyes, you could be easily sub nine, um, and then like I said, sometimes with the mile, it's a little tricky because you kind of do have to have that 800 speed. So like 415 is not out of the realm, but 410 is probably more you're kind of gravitate towards. And then if you're running 410, then your 800 is probably like 155 range too. Yeah, there's a lot there's a lot to unpack there. But I guess overall though the season, even with having mono, I mean, how would you say it went? I mean, I again, you hear my opinion. I thought it was fairly well for what it was. How do you think it kind of went?
I think, I mean, for what I could do, I think I, reached as much as I could have ever thought. I didn't think I was going to run for a little bit. I thought my season was just going to be nothing. So I'm very proud of the way it turned out. It was definitely hard, because you do feel like, you can run so much faster, but you have to be okay with, running. I mean, the times that ran were PRs. They were good. I was proud of them. It definitely sucks knowing that, my 32 could be a little faster. I feel like if I was in cross country shape or, with a little bit more training, if I was really to my maximum potential, I feel like I could definitely run faster. And that's obviously annoying. But it gives me something to work on next season, work towards. So I would say I'm very proud with it. We're proud of it.
Yeah. One last question for track. Favorite workout. Do you have any like favorite workouts that like I know you mentioned like ones that like you felt really strong afterwards, but is there something in particular that you kind of like this is a go-to workout that I love doing? I feel good afterwards.
We usually in the postseason we do a 400 workout. Whether it be like I think this year it was 5x400. It's always fun, because we ran a 4x8 at nationals, so we had like four guys out there. Usually it's just me and George, but this year we had some more people out there, and it's a fun workout because it's really hard. We started at like 60 this year, and just kind of went down. And I love those kind of workouts. It's not my it's not my area. The 400, I will, it's not my domain, but it's fun to kind of get out there and run fast, faster than you get to run in a race in like a 16 or a 32. So that workout is really enjoyable. 400 repeats.
No, that's an interesting one. I don't think I've ever heard. Again, there's always a first for everything. I don't think I've ever heard a distance runner say 400s. I enjoy doing 400s. Yeah, man. Let's kind of shift to this season, kind of coming up here. Summer training. Have you have you started the training already, or are you on a break?
I'm on break right now. I have a weird, it's kind of I run, it's like a 2 week period where I run 3 or 4 days of it and the rest of the days are rest. Because in the past when I've taken 2 weeks off and gone back, I get injured. Even if I try and train back slowly or not, it just doesn't work for me. I did it last year after nationals for track, and it worked. I would say. And so this year I'm doing the same thing. So I'll be fully training on July 5th. That's my first like. That's when break is over. But I did one run on Friday, and then I'm doing one.
Okay. Yeah, that's a, I always tell people like everybody kind of has a different way of doing it. I've heard to me, some crazy things from student athletes, and then some other things where I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But everybody has a way of doing it, and can't really criticize it, especially if you're running the times. Whatever works for you. That's a unique one before. So okay, so training fully is coming up here. Um, you're ranked second individually. Um, Obviously, going for that number one spot. Fifth as a team, right? That's not bad either. In your class here. And then obviously, like I said, yeah, George coming off a really, really strong track season. Compared to the cross. What are the goals for cross this year? Do you have a time in mind? I mean, obviously, defending state champion. I'm sure you'd want to take the title again, but time wise, is there anything?
Time wise, I definitely want to run sub 15. I would say that, I think I can do it. I know I can do it. That's obviously not it's a jump, but it's not as crazy of a jump. But I think it's something that I want to personally accomplish and say I've done. And I really wanted to do it last season. So it was a little heartbreaking when NXR came around and I wasn't able to finish because I felt like I was physically like in shape to do it, but I was trying to push my body or my ankle specifically more than I could. So that was disappointing. But this season, I would say the goals are sub 15, hopefully faster than 1450. But I just want to say that I've broken 15 in the 5K. And then perform well at Foot Locker or NXR, I haven't decided. And just kind of finish my high school cross country career off well.
Yeah, it's a lot to put on you. I think to be like, oh, dude, you're gonna do it. But like, there's the hype, and I think pressure. It's hard to say. I mean, you can call it pressure, but I think it's also just like it's confidence. I think like I'm confident in you just talking to you at night now. Like you seem really well, put together, and obviously you know your stuff here. Um, because I mean, I want to tell you a time I think you could run, but I don't want to destroy it. But definitely sub 15. I see that in the cards for sure. Um, but yeah, man, dude, like, and then when it comes to, I know you said you were kind of thinking Foot Locker or an XR. What kind of goes into the? I mean, you could do both, or is that just like completely out of the cards? You don't want to do that?
I might do both. I don't know. I think it'll be a kind of how I'm feeling. If one, I'll sign up for both probably, and if I choose to do both, then
Yeah,
but if NXR were to go spectacular, then I probably wouldn't go to
do
Foot
the
Locker.
double.
Um,
That'd be a cool double, man. That's a
it would
cool double.
it would be. Um, I think I would love to do both. Just, get as much out of the season I can.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah.
yeah. It's cool that they like broke it up because it used to be they were on the same weekend, um, way back when, and now that they broke it up to give the South a chance. Yeah, I've always. I mean, now I mean you don't really see too many people try the double, but occasionally you do get those kids that are running both on both weekends. Yeah, man. Hey, appreciate you coming on. Seriously, you're going to be looking at a lot of the times out of North Carolina, trying to get up to quite a bit of racing up there this season. And yeah, man, hopefully we just link up, and it'd be good to meet you face to face. And wish you the best of luck this season.
Thank you so much. Yeah.